Hello everyone, welcome to today's session where we're going to look at the essay on the pleasures of no longer being very young by GK Chesterton. Gilbert Keith Chesterton was an English poet, philosopher, dramatist, essayist, journalist, orator, literary and art critic. He was the one who wrote 80 books, several hundred poems, about 200 short stories, 4,000 essays, and several plays. And his style is witty, consistent, and extremely paradoxical. He is often referred to as the Prince of Paradox, and it is due to the fact because in his writings there are elements of paradox, parables, or allegories, and these things he include in order to illustrate certain spiritual truths. And this essay on the pleasures of no longer being very young has been taken from his collection All Is Grist, which was published in 1931. And since this essay was written after the Great Economic Depression in the 1930s, it was the time when the new industrial economy collapsed, and the modern man had very well realized or modern man had learnt a lesson of being too proud of his knowledge. So it was at such time this essay was written by Chesterton, and particularly in this essay we talk about, then Chesterton is analyzing the advantages of old age with the help of humor, paradox, and frequent allusions. So let's begin the reading of the text, where Chesterton says or writes, "There are advantages in the advance through middle age into later life which are very seldom stated in a sensible way. Generally, they are stated in a sentimental way." So, what Chesterton is pointing out in the very beginning, that generally the benefits or the advantages of old ages which are being told or which are supposed by the people, they all are supposed in a wrong way. They are supposed in a sentimental way, because generally what is the usual belief about the advantage or about the benefit of old age? That is that in a general suggestion that all old men are equipped with beautiful snowy beards like Father Christmas and rejoice in unfathomable wisdom like Nestor. That generally it is believed that when man become old, then he becomes happy and kind like Santa Claus. Father Christmas is a reference to Santa Claus, and with his white beards he become happy and kind like Father Christmas and rejoice, and he become as wise as, or he takes, or he has wisdom like Nestor. Here the Nestor is this classical Greek figure. He is a wise king of Pylos. So in this way, this is the general supposition by people about the people belong to old age, that they become Father Christmas and Nestor, they become happy, kind, and wise when they become old, and this is the only benefit of old age. But here Chesterton is further elaborating that these are the wrong beliefs which make what is the what is its result, what is its consequence, that this general supposition makes young people skeptical about all. This has caused the young people to be skeptical about the real advantages of the old people, and the true statement of those advantages sounds like a paradox. So here Chesterton is suggesting and arguing that all these wrong beliefs or general suppositions about the old age make young people doubtful about the real advantages, and when these real advantages are told to them, they find those true benefits of old age very paradoxical or contradictory, because they don't seem to convinced by them, because they are already told these or above suppositions about the benefits or advantages of old age. I would not say that old men grow wise, for men never grow wise, and many old men retain a very attractive childishness and cheerful innocence, Elderly people are often much more romantic than younger people, and sometimes even more adventurous. So here Chesterton is furthering his argument in favor of old age, that old age, that what young people think, that old age is not enjoyable. It is rather more enjoyable, because it is in the old age when people finds that it is the time to be openly romantic and adventurous. So having begun to realize how many things they do not know, and it is in the old age when people begin to cherish their follies, begin to accept their ignorance, that they are still ignorant in this world of knowledge, in front of the immensity of knowledge. They don't have the complete knowledge, and they begin to cherish it. They begin to be happy, or they begin to accept this wholeheartedly, their realization, or that there are many things they do not know. It is a true proverb, no doubt, which says, there is no fool like an old fool. So here what Chesterton seems to suggest is that when people become old, they become philosophic, and they seem to understand the secret of happiness then only, because they in the old age, people people leave this proverb, that there is no fool like an old fool, that yes, we are old, and yes, we are fool, because there is no fool like an old fool. And we are ignorant, we don't know many things, many new things we don't know. Yes, we accept it. So here I want to draw your attention towards the fact, or it is important to notice here, that actually this proverb means that there is no fool like an old fool, means that old people are not excused if they behave foolishly, or their foolish behavior is not excused, because life had already given them many chances to learn. But here it is very interesting to see that how Chesterton has twisted this proverb in the favor of his argument. In order to strengthen his argument, he has used this proverb in very different way. Here he is using it, that there is no fool like an old fool, that old people accept their behavior, their foolish behavior, or their foolishness wholeheartedly and without any cynicality in it. Perhaps there is no fool who is half so happy in his own fool's paradise. So perhaps so this line again revealing what Chesterton wants to convey here in related to old age, that when people grow older, their humor or ability to laugh at the things become great, or the things which were very serious to these older people when they were young, now they can laugh at, or they can be laughed at. So they seem they reach at this state in the old age, in this state of taking things not so seriously in the old age only. It is not possible in young age. Young age, it is the paradise, it is the fool's paradise is belong to only to the old age, because it is in old age when people begin to reflect the things in different way. It is only when people reach the milestone of old age. But however this may be, it is true that the advantages of maturity are not those which are generally urged even in praise of it, and when they are truly urged, they sound like an almost comic contradiction. So here Chesterton is reiterating his argument which he has given in the very beginning of the essay, that actually the true advantages are not spoken about, or not put forward actually, and whenever they put forward, they seem like comic contradiction, that oh, is this the advantage of old age? It doesn't seem to be, because there are some wrong suppositions about old age are in vogue, or are in public, or people usually think about them only, they don't explore it more. For instance, one pleasure attached to growing older is that many things seem to be growing younger, growing fresher, and more lively than we once supposed them to be. So, here Chesterton is attaching uh, specific advantage of growing old or old age, that many things with the growing of age or along with the growing age, many things seem to be grow younger, many things seem to become more fresh and livelier than earlier. We begin to see significance, or in other words, to see life in a large number of traditions, institutions, maxims, and code of manners that seem in our first days to be dead. So, here Chesterton is suggesting or uh, telling that young people, when people are in their first days, young people think that traditions and customs are outdated, and so they are useless. But it is in the old age when people with their experience come to realize that these traditions and customs are not outdated, they are practically useful, they are not useless, they are practically useful. We begin to see significance which were earlier dead. A young man grows up in a world that often seems to him intolerably old. A young man, when he is in full prime, or when he is in his prime, he is full of revolutionary zeal, and in his that zealous attitude, he finds his surroundings very old fashioned, and so old fashioned that he wants that he finds them intolerable, and he wants to destroy them and make new fresh uh, things instead of those old uh, old backward things, old so-called backward things, which he finds them backward in his young age. He grows up among proverbs and precepts that appear to be quite stiff and senseless, and in his young age, young people do not unable to make sense of those proverbs in their young age. So they find them quite stiff, unpliable, and senseless. He seems to be stuffed with stale things, and young people find that they are filled with these all stale things which have lost their vitality, to be given the stones of death instead of the bread of life, and they are given the stones of death. This is actually a biblical reference where the father gives his son stones instead of bread. So this is this kind of feeling young people have in their youth, because they don't find anything sensible and these proverbs, traditions, institutions, and maxims to be fed on the dust of the dead past. Everything seemed to them very dead uh, and senseless. To live in a town of tombs, it is a very natural mistake, but it is a mistake. So they find that everything has gone stale, and they are living in dead things, dead ideas. But Chesterton, what it is a natural mistake. So, what Chesterton is trying to drive home here, the point he is trying to drive home here is that when people are young, they are full of egotism and pride in their own mental capacities. So, at that stage, they tend to display pity on those who are adhering to the traditions, or especially those old people. They tend to pity them for their so called, as I have told you, so called backwardness. So this happened in the young age, but it is in the old age when people come to realize, or when these old customs and traditions, or when this old past which seem dead to us, or which seem dead to the young people, it comes alive, it comes home when people become old, and it is then they it is then in that stage of old age when they begin to cherish it far more keenly, when they begin to cherish it with all its meaning, because it is at that time when they begin to understand the significance of those things which were insensible and meaningless to them when they were young, because they have not experienced them. It is a very natural mistake, but it is a mistake. The advantage of advancing years lies in discovering that traditions are true and therefore alive. Indeed, a tradition is not even traditional except when it is alive. So it is the advantage of advancing year, growing old, that man begins to discover that traditions are actually true. They are practically useful. And here he has presented a play of word. I will read it again. Tradition is not even traditional except when it is alive. It is a play of word where he seems to suggest that traditions are actually very practical, and this is the reason that they are continue to survive through centuries. It is great fun to find out that the world has not repeated proverbs because they are proverbial, but because they are practical. That the world has not repeated proverbs because they are proverbial, because the proverbs are practical. That's why they have maintained uh, their survival through centuries. Until I owned a dog. Now he is giving some personal illustrations or some experiential illustrations from his own life, as he finds comfort in the old age Chesterton. So he's saying, until I owned a dog, I never knew what is meant by the proverb about letting a sleeping dog lie, or the fable about the dog in the manger. So he's saying that until I didn't have a dog, I have not experienced the real meaning or the import of these proverbs, like letting a sleeping dog lie, because he has not experienced. But along with his age, when he experienced it, or when he had his dog, when he actually experienced that what it means by letting a sleeping dog lie, we should not wake it up. Why should we don't wake it up? Because this is a proverb actually. Letting a sleeping dog lie means, if someone says to you to let a sleeping dog lie, then he or she is actually warning you to not to disturb or interfere with the situation, because you will end up, or you will otherwise you will invite problems or troubles for you. So letting a sleeping dog lie. So, and the next one, fable, dog in the manger. Dog in the manger conveys a person. Actually, dog in the manger, he might have this experience, Chesterton, that dog in the manger means that a person who spitefully don't let others to do anything or to have anything, instead of the fact that he himself or herself doesn't want that particular thing, but he doesn't allow others also to have that thing. So dog in the manger means a dog who doesn't eat its food, and the dog and this dog also doesn't let others to eat that. So dog in the manger, this and letting a sleeping dog lie, these proverbs he came to understand when he owned a dog, when he saw with his own experience. So now those dead phrases are quite alive to me, for they are parts of a perfectly practical psychology. They are very practical. These proverbs, which are traditional proverbs, which are handed over to us generation to generation, they have their import, they have their meaning and logic. Until I went to live in the country, I had no notion of the meaning of the maxim, it's an ill wind that blows nobody good. Now he is saying that until I went to the country where I had certain, and when it is only then when I went to the country I had certain experiences which made this maxim alive in my life. It's an ill wind that blows nobody good, which means that there is scope of some good even in the evil things. So it is this proverb also come alive, or I come to terms with this maxim because in my young age I also used to find these maxims very absurd and meaningless, but I also found these maxims meaningful and logical and significant when I experienced it with my age. Now it seems to me as pertinent and even pungent as if it were a new remark just made to me by a neighbor at the garden gate. So but now these all like maxims which I have already mentioned, these maxims becomes pertinent, very relevant and very striking, and this much striking to me that as if it were have been a remark by my neighbor. It is something to come to live in a world of living and significant things instead of dead and unmeaning things. So old age is such a phase when we begin to live, and when we begin to leave the living and significant things rather than that past or the youth, when we considered the things which we used to consider dead and unmeaning in our youth, they become alive at once when we experience as or along with our age. So this is the benefit of old age which Chesterton is pointing out here, and the world become at once alive in old age, and it is youth in revolt, even in righteous revolt. So why the youth, the revolt of youth is righteous? Why Chesterton himself is saying that youth is right on their part. It is it may be because Chesterton also knows, or Chesterton is favoring their revolt because he is saying that youth do not understand these benefits of old age, or youth do not understand that why old people have a certain advantage, because youth is has not lived, or youth has not lived yet to the same extent as an older man. A young man has not lived as an old man, so that's why a young man is not so aware, or is not is unable to understand the advantages of old age or old people. So even in right, they are righteous in their revolt. They are in revolt that why they are adhering to the old things and traditions and institutions, but it is actually the matter of experience which sees its surroundings as dead, because youth finds its surroundings as dead and unmeaning. It is old age and even second childhood that has come to see that everything means something and that life itself has never died. So here Chesterton is strengthening his argument that old age is actually second childhood, in which a person learn everything, and by learning almost everything he can make his surroundings more alive and fresh and meaningful. So this is the point where I'm going to wrap up today's session. We will continue in the next lecture, and hopefully we will complete this essay in our subsequent lecture. So that's all for today, and I look forward to see you in the next session. Thank you for now.